Hello, everyone, and welcome to Daily English Dose. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of a young man whose talent was as great as his arrogance, and how he met the harsh realities of life and transformed into a true master. Have you ever thought life was easy, or have you believed that your talent alone would open every door? This story will show you that true success comes not only with talent, but also with perseverance, humility, and hard work. This is the tough, sweet journey of a young chef named David. If you're ready, please join us for this lesson-filled meal cooked by David. Our story is about a young man named David, the only child of a wealthy family. David possessed an incredible natural talent for cooking. It was as if he had magic at his fingertips. The vegetables he cut were perfect, and the dishes he tasted instantly found their balance. He had always been the brightest student in culinary schools, and everyone said he would be the next great chef. Thanks to his father's money, he had attended the best culinary schools in the world, interned at the most luxurious restaurants, and always worked with the most expensive ingredients. However, alongside all this talent, he also had a big problem: arrogance. David saw no need for hard work, discipline, kitchen hierarchy, or even respect for other people in the kitchen. "I'm already a genius. I don't need to do mundane tasks, those dirty cleaning jobs, the dishes, or chop vegetables for hours," he would think. He didn't appreciate the value of ingredients and avoided putting in effort. He would carelessly throw away leftover food. He was always given the best positions in restaurants, but after a while, he would be fired due to his indiscipline, carelessness, and arrogant attitude. He was even fired from the last Michelin-starred luxury restaurant he worked at after carelessly ruining a special meal prepared for a very important client, completely losing his reputation even in the eyes of that famous chef. His father was tired and worn out by his son's complacent and irresponsible attitude and his continuous mistakes. His father had great concerns about David's future. One evening, while David was again dining at a luxurious restaurant, ordering an expensive wine with his father's credit card, his father called him over. His father's face was more serious than ever. His eyes held weariness, disappointment, and determination. "David," he said, his voice firm and clear, "enough is enough. You have talent, but you have no soul. You are just a toy, not a real chef. If you want to be a true chef, you must learn the value of every ingredient, every effort. You think life is easy, but you are wrong." David smiled casually. "Father, I'm already the best in the world. Why should I bother myself? Things have always been easy for me. I've always had everything I wanted." His father slowly shook his head, his eyes fixed on him. "No, my son. You are just a spoiled child. As of tomorrow, all your expenses are cut off. Your credit cards, everything. You will be on your own. If you truly want to be a chef, you will start from the very bottom. You will earn your own living. You have no other choice. You cannot get anywhere by using my last name." David was shocked. For the first time in his life, his father had said no to him, putting him in a difficult situation. It was as if time had stopped. The restaurant's noise turned into a deafening silence in David's ears. When he woke up the next morning, he realized his father's words were no joke. With an empty wallet, he reluctantly set off for the address his father had arranged. He found himself in front of a small, cheap diner in an old, run-down neighborhood of the city. The diner's sign was rusty, its window foggy. When he entered, the heavy smell of food, the noise, the hot and greasy air overwhelmed David. This place was nothing like the luxurious air-conditioned kitchens, sparkling countertops, and assistant-filled environments he was used to. The biggest lesson of his life was about to begin. Right here in this humble kitchen, wearing a dirty apron. First challenge: harsh kitchen realities and physical limits. David's first task was to chop vegetables, starting early in the morning before the sun even rose. From early morning until 1 in the afternoon, He chopped hundreds of onions, potatoes, carrots, and tomatoes. His hands blistered. The knife cut his finger countless times, and his eyes welled up with tears from the pain. The sharp smell of the onions burned his nostrils. His back ached. His legs were swollen from standing since morning and carrying heavy crates. Every muscle in his body screamed in protest. During his lunch break, he sat with the other employees, and seeing their simple, homemade meals, he longed for his own luxurious meals: salmon salads, expensive steaks, and special wines. When he returned home in the evening, he felt a weariness and exhaustion he had never experienced before. His whole body ached as if he had been hit by a truck. Even a shower couldn't wash away his fatigue. The next day, he worked in the dishwashing area. The constant sound of running water, the clanging of plates, the heavy grease and food scraps. Dirty pots, mountains of greasy dishes. David felt his stomach churn, almost gagging. The soapy water irritated his hands. His skin peeled, and his nails broke. The hot steam burned his face, leaving him drenched in sweat. "This job is not for me. This job is disgusting. I can't do this," he protested to himself one morning. But he had only a few coins in his pocket. His landlord was asking for rent, and his father wasn't answering his calls or returning his messages. If he didn't want to starve or live on the streets, he had to work. There were nights he cried uncontrollably from exhaustion, disappointment, and loneliness. He began to worry about his future for the very first time. Second challenge: arrogance and authority conflict. David at first openly looked down on the other employees in the kitchen. He criticized their simple tasks, their slow movements, believing them to be mediocre. The old stern head chef, Mr. Henderson, would shout at him with an icy voice or a roar, even for the slightest mistake. When David tried to show off his own talent or suggest better methods, Mr. Henderson would harshly silence him, saying, "My rules apply here, rookie. First, learn to listen and respect. Discipline and humility come before talent." One day, when David tried to make a simple sauce his own way, a more artistic and complex method, Mr. Henderson took the plate and furiously smashed it on the floor, the porcelain shattering into pieces. "Don't disrespect the customer. There are rules in my diner. Follow the recipe to the letter. This is not your experiment lab. My recipes have been tested and approved for centuries." David inwardly scorned the other chefs in the kitchen, thinking, "You'll waste your lives with such simple tasks." However, unlike David, they were passionate about their work, humble and respectful people. They meticulously followed Mr. Henderson's orders. Maria, a tough but fair dishwasher, once looked David in the eye as she handed him a dirty plate and said, "You might have talent, kid, but you have no respect. Everyone here puts their heart, their sweat, and their years into this work. But you only think about yourself. Arrogance has blinded you. Every pot, every plate here has a story, but you only see the dirt." These words hit David like a slap. For the first time, he was forced to consider someone else's perspective, their feelings, and their efforts. Until that moment, he had lived only in his own world. Third challenge: financial hardship and facing reality. For the first time in his life, David began to understand the value of money, and even its absence and the helplessness it brought. He was living on minimum wage, meticulously accounting for every penny to get through the week. The money he used to spend on one meal at a luxury restaurant, he now had to make last for a week. Instead of gourmet meals, he cooked simple dishes for himself in the evenings, with ingredients he bought from cheap markets instead of watching TV. He realized he couldn't buy new shoes to replace his broken ones, or wear his favorite designer clothes, but had to wear cheap, durable work clothes. One day, he couldn't scrape together enough money for the bus fare, so he had to walk to work, which took hours. On the way, he saw beggars, people living on the streets, dumpster divers. There was a world around him he had never noticed before. These financial difficulties taught him how valuable his father's money was and how easily he had obtained his luxurious life. For the first time, he began to see the effort behind the money, not just his father's, but the entire world's. Lying in bed at night, thinking about the careless decisions he used to make and all the money he spent, he felt cramps in his stomach. Fourth challenge: inner doubts and small victories. David came close to giving up countless times. One night, when he called his father crying for help, his father simply said, "Find your own way, David. Discover your strength. You're not done yet. Remember, the greatest chefs are forged in tough kitchens." And hung up. David sobbed uncontrollably that night. He was alone, helpless. He felt like he had hit rock bottom for the first time in his life. At night, he couldn't sleep, thinking about the kitchen's difficulties, Mr. Henderson's scoldings, Maria's harsh words, and the unbearable pain in his hands and back. However, slowly, he began to achieve small victories. One day, he chopped onions so fast and evenly that Mr. Henderson paused as he passed by and lightly tapped David's shoulder, saying, "Not bad, rookie. You're improving." This felt like the most valuable compliment David had ever received in his life. His eyes welled up, but he quickly turned his head, hoping no one would see. On another day, during a busy lunch service, a young waiter named Max messed up orders and panicked. David rushed to Max's aid, quickly fixed the situation in the kitchen, and got the correct meals out. Max sincerely thanked him and looked David in the eye, his face showing genuine gratitude. In that moment, David felt the satisfaction of helping someone else and being part of a team. Another time, seeing Maria struggling with a heavy tray, he rushed to help her without hesitation. Maria gave him a warm smile and said, "Thanks, kid. You'll make a man out of yourself." David felt good about himself for the first time, experiencing the inner peace that comes from doing something for others. These moments taught David the satisfaction of doing his job better, helping others, and being part of a team. The wall of arrogance within him slowly began to crumble. One Saturday night, the diner unexpectedly became packed. All the customers from a large restaurant that had suddenly closed on the other side of the city had flocked here. One of the chefs had suddenly fallen ill, and another couldn't make it, leaving Mr. Henderson almost alone in the kitchen. Orders piled up, phones rang incessantly, customers grew impatient, and tension rose. Chaos reigned in the kitchen, plates broke, sauces spilled, voices were raised. It was at that moment that David stepped in. He was no longer arrogant. He moved quickly, efficiently, and calmly. While meticulously completing his assigned tasks, he also helped Mr. Henderson and the other chefs. They worked almost like a synchronized marvel. He chopped onions, prepared vegetables, seared meats, mixed sauces. Every step he took was precise, as if the kitchen were his dance floor, and every movement a work of art. Mr. Henderson witnessed David's incredible transformation, almost as if he had turned into a hero, with surprise and pride. David worked in the kitchen like an orchestra conductor. He displayed not only his talent, but also the discipline, speed, ability to remain calm under pressure, and team spirit he had acquired. The chaos slowly turned into order, and the noise began to subside. By the end of the night, the diner had fulfilled all orders, and customers left satisfied. Mr. Henderson, tired but grateful, came to David's side, a genuine smile on his face for the first time. He slapped David firmly on the shoulder and said, "David, you're no longer a rookie. You're a true chef. Thank you." These words were the most valuable reward, the greatest success David had ever received in his life. That night, David had the most delicious sleep of his life. He was tired but peaceful. For the first time, he was sleeping with a sense of pride he had earned through his own effort. David continued to work at the diner. He was no longer a rookie. He had become Mr. Henderson's right-hand man, even sometimes taking over the entire management of the diner. The other employees in the kitchen respected him, and he often joked with Maria. He had become not only a chef but also a valuable person, a humble friend. His relationship with his father had also improved. One day, his father visited the diner, and when he saw David working in the kitchen, covered in sweat, but with happiness, discipline, and respect, his eyes filled with tears. His father came to his side, placed a hand on his shoulder, and simply said, "I'm proud of you, son." David now knew that money wasn't easily earned. He had a dream of opening his own small, humble restaurant. But this time, he wasn't in a hurry. He would take every step thoughtfully, valuing every penny, every dish, every customer's smile, every dirty dish. He understood how his life, starting with those tough beginnings, had transformed into a sweet flavor. David had learned that talent alone was not enough, but that true success could be savored through hard work, perseverance, and respect for people. He was no longer just a chef, but also a master of life, the true chef of his own destiny and success. David's story shows us that true success comes not only with innate talent, but also with hard work, discipline, humility, and respect for people. The difficulties we face in life are actually lessons that make us stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Learning to respect others, understanding the importance of teamwork, and realizing that everything has a cost are the keys to achieving true values. The sweetest victories come after the toughest struggles. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below. I'd really love to hear what you think. Remember, consistent listening, confident speaking,